ask you to please put a mask on if you're going to be in the room. And get a mask.
I'm a medical. So you need to mind your own business.
I'm sorry, but if you're going to be in here, you have to wear a mask.
No, I don't.
Anna? All right, again, we ask you to please put on a mask if you're going to be in the room or you need to watch from outside.
I have a medical.
All right, Anna, will you please escort her out?
I have a medical, you cannot.
You can watch it online.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. What is your name?
All right, good evening. We welcome you to this meeting of the Elko County School District Board of Trustees, and we welcome our new board members. We are glad to have them with us. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Item 1.3 is approval of the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor of approving the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Chair votes aye and the agenda is approved. Item 1.4 is input from the public. I will start by reading NRS 203.090. Every person who, without authority or law, shall willfully disturb any assembly or meeting not unlawful in its character shall be guilty of a misdemeanor. NRS 203.119. A person shall not commit any act in a public building which interferes with the peaceful conduct of activities normally carried on in the building. Any such person who refuses to leave the building upon request by the proper official is guilty of a misdemeanor. All right, now that we've got that cleared up, we'll move on to public comment. This is a period devoted to comments by the general public, if any, and discussion of those comments. In the interest of privacy and due process, the public is requested to not raise personnel issues except in a legally noticed closed personnel session of the board. Comments are limited to 3 consecutive minutes. A speaker's time may not be reserved, divided, apportioned, or deferred. No action may be taken upon a matter raised under this item of the agenda until the matter itself has been included specifically on an agenda as an item upon which action will be taken. This is a non-action item. I have a couple requests for public comment. So we'll start with Lee Hoffman.
Thank you, President Jasper. And members of the trustees of the board, and thank the new trustees. It is the first thing for putting yourselves out here to join this difficult and contentious time. Tonight I'm here, I have in my hand, you may have seen them before, this is a pocket constitution of the United States, and it contains also the Declaration of Independence. The Elko County Republican Party would like to donate a significant number of these constitutions to some of your classes. It's been done before. We used to give them to the AP political science class. I don't know what the best approach is, and I don't know the number. So I'm going to be in contact with Mr. Zander to discuss how we can proceed with this. We would like it to be known that the Elko County Republican Party is making this contribution. But if it becomes an obstacle in terms of getting access to making these donations in classes, we don't want that to be a hindrance. We believe these are critical documents to our culture, our history, our country, and we want to help educate students about these documents. So as I said, I will be in contact with Mr. Zander, and hopefully we can proceed from there and make them available either to American history or government classes, whatever seems to be most appropriate. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, the next request is from Kimberly Starr. All right. Is there anyone else who wishes to make a public comment? All right, we'll move on to item 1.5, receive a presentation from Chris Johnson regarding the bond election. This is also a non-action item. Welcome, Chris. Thank you for being here.
Well, we just thought that as we have the school board meetings and other public meetings during this bond election, if there's opportunity to have an agenda, just some issues that we could address and maybe answer some questions. It's been great to be out in the community and listen to people about the situation and the issues that we have facing our community. And so when I look at this as a former elected official, what can we do better as a community in order to be in a better spot? I mean, there's some reasons out there that are not in support of this special election. And I think we could have avoided that as a community, maybe in some better times that we could share information, maybe on a 2-year basis or 3-year basis or 5-year basis between different entities. And so I would say that in the future, what we should do as a community is plan for those. And so I think that would be really good. Plans are put in place and then 10 years goes by and we should have circled back a couple more times just to be sure how the community felt or answer questions or whatever it is. So there's a lot of questions that we need to answer and just keep with the campaign. As people understand more about what this is, I truly believe we're gaining more and more support. Whether we can get that support by the time of election, we'll see. We're working on just a couple of different aspects. We're working in areas that we can use with low cost. Obviously, this is a dollar amount thing, and we'll just keep plugging at it. I attended city council today. I was on Battleborn Media today. I'll be on the radio next week. There's other meetings that are set up with nonprofit service organizations and just get the word out there. But it is encouraging of the questions that folks ask. And once a lot of those answers come, that I think it helps, and we'll just see. And there's a lot of issues that are in any of these, and everybody has their opinion, which is important. As a community, this is a very serious decision that we need to make for the future of our community and future of schools. And so as I dig into this more and more and more, I see the issues that come, and there's a lot of issues there that when you put them all into place, I believe my stance is exactly the same, and that the decisions that were made from the last 10 years were the right decisions, and that the decisions that'll be made in the future will be the right decisions. So I have every faith in the system, and it's our responsibility to, as citizens, to circle back every once in a while. The other thing that I see that's changing, and I think, again, as entities, school board, county, city, take a look at the issues of promoting and that type of thing. I see where we're really getting crowded in on the open meeting law, and it's very difficult to understand, and no one wants to put themselves in a bad position. But it's also important to understand the parameters that any elected official can work within, because we need the folks that are in the system, whichever side it is, to be able to feel comfortable speaking for or answering questions. And I think that's been one that's kind of compressed on elected officials and appointed officials of what can they do in the community? How much can they talk about the issues? What can they promote? What can they answer? And so I think that's a real disadvantage too. And so in the future, as we move forward and we look at that and more cross-sectional input as far as the interpretation to the open meeting law, because again, it's complicated. It's important that we stay within it. And so, but I think it's maybe crowded down so much. So again, this time on the agenda is really just an opportunity to circle back and just let you know kind of what we're seeing, where we're going, what we're doing. If we can answer any questions or that kind of thing, be more than happy to do it. But it's been a real service. I'm really happy to be involved with this. What I'm learning about the system, I mean, it just goes on and on. When I served as an elected official, what I gained in knowledge was much more than I ever put in. So again, it's just been a good experience to help and learn about the challenges of the school district and just being able to understand those.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Johnson?
So Chris, what other appointments do you have set up in regards to, are you planning on going to a county commission meeting or?
Yeah.
If you are, what date is that going to be?
Well, they meet on the first and third Wednesday.
Okay.
So we'll just via the public comment process. And then we're going to make, again, presentations to the service groups, which have been very successful in the past. The old days, I mean, 10 years ago when this thing was here, I mean, it was really pretty easy. And so, but we had more of a resource and more flexibility. And I think that's one of the challenges that we had is getting out in front of it and getting to the service groups and that. When this started, I did reach out to some friends in Washoe County and asked, what do you think it would take to get this passed? And Washoe County came back and said, well, it cost us $1 million just to do the campaign. And so it's like, wow. But Elko's been successful in being able to get the pay-as-you-go to a next step just in that. So the key to this is going to be talking to your neighbor, talking to whoever you can, and listening, right, to the issues, and then bringing them up. I mean, one of the main reasons that I wanted to be an elected official was because Lee Hoffman, when he was on the city council before I was, I'll pick on Lee, right? I mean, I would watch and I would see the decisions they make, and they always made good decisions. But you would wonder at times what's going on. And so that was one of the drivers of why I wanted to be an elected official, because I would get in on the inside and see all of the issues and understand more about that. And so I have that advantage of being able to know that as a post-elected official. And so, but the same kind of thing is circling back and promoting it and getting it, because your elected officials are your best source of information. And when we have those constrained, then we need to be careful that we can keep them available, like a presentation to a service group or to another government entity. And then what parameters do you stay within it? So, but yeah, we're going to do the same thing, and then we'll continue on with some marketing as we can, and then take advantage of all the electronic means that we can, and we'll just keep plugging at it. So
Good.
If it would help, if you're going to one of these things and if I'm available, I could come along and help support you.
okay, well,
I definitely would.
absolutely. No, that would be beautiful. And so what I'll do is I will give my schedule to Jeff, and then you guys can see there. And then, like I said, but that's huge. And it's fun too, right? You get out there and you get to see folks and you get to talk to them and they see you as well. I mean, it's really important. And that's what we need to do is get them out there amongst and then go from there. But I'll let Jeff know my schedule.
And we
And then
also
as you
have
guys-
Tammy here. Tammy's in the back of the room, and Tammy's doing presentations too.
Yeah.
And I think Tammy's heading over the window over here pretty quick to do a presentation. So she's available too if anybody would like to go with her on some presentation.
Likewise, I'd be happy to help out. I'm still learning what I can and can't say regarding
Sure.
this as an elected official, but as long as I stay within the confines of that, I'd be happy to help with however I can.
You bet. No, that's perfect. Yeah, and I mean, we just have we have a pack. It sounds complicated, but it's really simple. There's 3 of us. There's Tammy and I and my son Chase are there, and just citizens for Elko County Schools. But those are the vehicles that you need to have in place in order to have the campaign. So, but yeah, we'll do that and then just get out and about and let's get this thing as the best position that we can get it for the least amount of cost. That's important. And then get out there and, like I said, just listen to folks and really, like I said, once some of the answers come, it helps. It helps. And it's a good system because we have a chance to evaluate where we are every 10 years. It's a tough system, but it's a good system because we get to circle back to the community. And so, like I said, I think what we need to do better as a community is do a little something in between. But we all get busy, and that master planning or that long-term planning is one that gets away. But I think the situation that we're in today is a good example of how important it is for all government entities to figure out how we can be able to circle on like I said, every 3rd year or 5 year or 2 year or something along those lines.
Collaborate.
Yeah.
Any
So-
other questions? All right, well, I will just ask a question since you've been out and about doing this. And as board members, one of the things we can do is we just share facts. We can share facts.
Yes,
We
absolutely.
can't promote and say, you have to vote yes on this. But we can share information and we should share factual information. So as you're out and about and people are saying, well, what was all the money spent on in the past and what are they going to spend on? What are they going to spend it on in the future? How are you answering that question?
The project the one that comes to the top of opposition to the question is the performing arts. And so my response to that is that the school district presented that project in 2010 when they presented the pay-as-you-go. And this is where I come back to that. Should we, as a community, have circled back on every 3rd year basis just to reaffirm that plan? But when you go back and you look at that plan that was presented for pay-as-you-go, performing arts was on that list. And that is huge for the school district. That's huge for the school district that they stuck to the plan that was presented. And in defense of the school district, I am not aware of what happened in those 10 years. So as a citizen, I may have missed a meeting. Maybe they were there. I don't know. But that's the biggest one. That's one of the biggest oppositions is the selection of that project. And so, and then in the future, as far as that goes in answering where we are, the school district has good plans in place. And so they look at what they are, they have them labeled, what it is. And so when you look at those, then ask questions about it and the reasons why. Hey, why are you doing this project? Well, once you listen to what's requiring that, then it's like, okay, I'm in. And that's a big help too. But what the school district has available now for the plan is study that plan. And then that plan's not going to happen tomorrow. So if there's aspects about that plan that you don't like, then make public comment about that. And that's what we need to do is as citizens get into the plan, what it is, and then present why we think it's not the right plan.
Absolutely. Thank you. Because we do want people to know they have input. And when we meet and talk about capital projects, it always happens in this room in a public meeting. And we invite everyone to watch the agenda and come talk about their feelings on capital projects for sure. So any other, go ahead, Chris, did you have something else to add to that?
Well, yeah. When I look at some of the things that the school's been addressed on, my response to that is the school district meets at 850 Elm Street. Okay, they meet twice a month at 850 Elm Street, Elko, Nevada. They meet twice a month, and at 2 times during those meetings, they have available for public comment. So throughout the year, the public has 48 times that they can make comment to the school of how things are going. If you take that over a 10-year period, that was 480 times that someone could come and address the school board. The school board is as transparent and has the same procedures and the same meeting requirements as the city of Elko and Elko County. It's there. And so the school district needs to be given credit that they followed those. And as citizens, we have those opportunities. And so I love that question. And that's one that's one that it's a real defense for, because it is. Now, public process gets complicated and folks get a little, where do I step in? Where can I step in? And all those things. But the good thing about government is it moves slow. So you can still do it because, hey, if you just send a letter and ask a question or get that, your input's still going to count. You may not get the results immediately, but government's not moving very fast anyway. So you can catch up to where they are and then ask that. So that's what we need to know as far as citizens, because I think folks get a little shy of where can I be included in, but it's critical that they do that. And that's the thing that I learned as an elected official is that the comparison between business and government is that business has a competitor. And so you're wanting to have that, you're wanting to provide a better product. Government doesn't have that competitor necessarily, but what we need to do as citizens through the public process is make our input known to help guide where we'd like this government entity to go. And so it's a two-way street as far as keeping track of, and then what can entities do to promote. So everything's a balance. But yes, that 850 Elm Street, Elko, Nevada, 2nd and 4th Tuesday of every month.
Yeah, thank you. Any other?
Mr. Johnson, if I recall correctly, and if I'm reading correctly, there's only one polling place this time. It's the library, and mail-in ballots are accepted. When are the mail-in ballots going to be shipped? Do you know?
They're here.
Because I know we've got the sample ballots. Okay.
And the mail-ins, I've received my mail-in.
Yeah, I received mine as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. And so mail it in or go to the library if you want to vote
Yep.
then.
Exactly. It'll be the same as the last election. So you'll have the choice to mail it, take it to the clerk, early vote, or vote on December 14th.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions for Mr. Johnson? All right,
Perfect.
thank you. And thank you for your work to support the school district
You're welcome.
and our
I'm glad.
students.
Absolutely. I'm glad to do it. This community has been great. And so I grew up here, graduated from Elko High School, obviously past mayor, and we're so fortunate to be where we are. This really is. So it's easy to give back, but thank you.
Yes,
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Chris.
All right, we'll move on to item 1.6, a presentation from Spring Creek High School FBLA business programs. Mrs. Williams, please come on up and bring your students.
So I'm so excited to be here with you all tonight, especially since to me, everything we're talking about is them. And that's why we're here, all right? My name is Tiffany Williams. I'm the business teacher at Spring Creek High School, and I know some of you. Some of you are new to me, but this is my 12th year of teaching at Spring Creek High School, my 33rd year in this community. My background is in business, so teaching the subject ties in. And by the way, thank you, Mr. Zander, for being here again, and also to Cassie. So anyways, my background is in business, and so what I teach ties in with what they're learning. First, I want you to know that I appreciate the board's time and attention. I hope this presentation brings you some normalcy to some abnormal conditions. This is a time to reflect on how well our students are doing amidst local, state, and national trying issues. They are what keeps me focused on the subject at hand, my business program in FBLA. I started presenting to you 11 years ago. It's weird to think it's been 11 years already. It dawned on me that if we don't come before you, how in the world would you know what we are doing and what you're approving for our travel and our programs? This is a great opportunity for you to connect with some of the students who are in the business management program and the CTSO that aligns with that, which is Future Business Leaders of America. This opportunity also gives some of the students a chance to sharpen their public speaking skills and to express what this program and the CTSO means to them publicly. Our program, which has evolved and keeps evolving over my teaching career, allows students to get anywhere from 6 to 12 credits of college should they keep in the pathway for 4 years and meet a few other state requirements. This does not include additional college credits that they may get from English, history, or any other classes that they may decide to take. The state is changing the program this year. So we all know when the state gets involved, it could be very different, but at this point, it's still the same. So the above mentioned may change and take on a new life, and I'll make sure I report back to you next year on that. I'm a truly blessed teacher, and those that have been here for the past few years, this is not new, to be able to see these students over here that come to me as a 14-year-old and leave me as an 18-year-old. Well, the growth is huge. Okay. I always say that a lot of times you can see projects such as welding, woodworking, engine repair, cooking, but in a business program, it's really hard to tell someone that you see their growth, but I do. I see them. I see what they learn. They learn professionalism, active listening skills, marketing, management, which is huge, and technology skills not taught in any other classrooms like Microsoft Office suites. Those certifications that are being launched this year, thank goodness. Students have become used to Google Suites and Google Meets, but businesses, according to what I've been still surveying, are still using Microsoft Office and Microsoft Teams. So we definitely need to make sure that they're in the right programs. In the face of such rapidly changing business needs and endeavors, we need to understand what jobs have yet to be created. We'll still need managers, human resource directors, and many other facilitators that have not been addressed. Although you may not be able to see these changes, like I said, I can. I'm going to introduce you to my president, which is Matthew Crossman. Caleb Costa is my Eastern Region Vice President. And at the end, that would be Kathleen Hedstrom, which is our I just said Vice President. Do you guys have any other questions for me, or are you ready for my presentations for my students?
Just thanks for being here and always
Thanks.
coming and bringing your students.
Love
It's
it.
great. Yeah.
Something we look forward to every year.
So hi, I'm Matthew Crossman. I'm the president of our local FBLA chapter. And so I just want to start off by saying thank you for letting me be here tonight. I'm truly grateful for the Business Pathway program and what it has done for me. So at the end of my middle school career, I had no idea what I wanted to do in high school. So I thought, let's take business. I like business. It's pretty cool. That's what I thought. So I took that class with the intention of it being like any other elective and being a pretty simple A. Well, boy, was I wrong. It was not. I was hoping that I could focus on main subjects, math, English, science, history, the important ones. So now that I've been going on this program for my third year, I've learned a lot. During my first year, I quickly found out that this class takes a lot of effort and was nothing like how I thought it was going to be. I knew that in the long run, for this eventually to work out, that I would have to put in effort. So I knew that eventually it would pay off, and I pushed forward, even though I hated it sometimes. One day, Mrs. Williams asked me if I would like to participate in one of the concessions for one of our local football games. At first, I was a little hesitant and wasn't super passionate about it, but I decided to go along with it and give it a shot. During that day, I was thinking of a million things that I could do besides be at that football game, but I was ready to help. As the night grew darker and people started showing up, I found out that doing concessions was something that I enjoyed. Hanging out with other FBLA members, serving people of our community, it was pretty fun. This event, oddly enough, is what got me hooked into FBLA. As I started to participate more, my ties to the class started to strengthen. Even though the work started to ramp up, I found myself starting to enjoy that class every morning. I remember getting asked to do Shop with a Cop. At the time, I did not think much of this event. I thought it was another fundraiser to go help with and get it over with. I was extremely wrong. Shop with a Cop was one of the most, I want to say, life-changing experiences that I've ever been through. What it is volunteers help prepare and help kids who have parents in the justice system shop at Walmart and get gifts for Christmas because their families aren't home. And what surprised me the most about this was how many of these kids in our community chose to get gifts for their siblings, their parents, their family, and not many for themselves. And it really got to my heart and showed me that even in bad situations, people still care about other people. What was even more surprising was how much fun that event was, giving back to the community. That event really showed me, what's the word I'm looking for? It really showed me how grateful I was for what I have, being with my family, receiving gifts from my family, getting to spend time with my family. It was really, like I said, life-changing. So then comes my first fun event I did with FBLA. We went bowling as a bonding experience. And that showed me that there was some fun to all the work that went into this program. The next big thing that I did was state. I was very excited for state and I was pretty much elated to go. And then COVID hit and we ended up doing this all online. So while my hopes and dreams were a little crushed, it was still interesting to figure out how things are ran. And it was quite inspiring, I guess would be the right word, on how quickly online substitutes were set up for what we've been doing for decades in person. So this brings me back to where I was last year presenting to the board. And I will admit, for the first half of this last year, it was a little slow. And one of the bigger things I ended up doing was state. State was leaps and bounds ahead of how it was last year with the extra year that they had. It was just crazy how they emulated an online, or I should say, what was an in-person convention almost, and transported it fully online. It really felt like we were there. I ended up placing first for my category, which was the local chapter annual business report, and I moved on to nationals. While nationals was also online, it was still a fun experience, and I learned a lot of things. During these times in May, I was elected president of our local chapter. This has been one of my biggest accomplishments to date and really makes me proud of myself for what I've done. Recently, we had our tri-tip fundraiser, which was a very interesting experience with me doing it 2 years ago and nothing since. And it really just brought me back to how I felt about FBLA 2 years ago and really has strung together these past 2 years. Overall, my experience with FBLA and the business pathway program has been wonderful. I can't thank you all who make this possible. This concludes my presentation.
You can ask some questions,
All
please.
right. All right, any questions for Matthew?
What kept you around when it was, you said it was really hard to start out at change it, but something had to click there to make you be like, hey, this is really is what I want to pursue.
It was probably Mrs. Williams. She was very pushy about it, which worked out in the long run. I may have not enjoyed it now, but I'm glad that she was that way because it's brought me to here and made me who I am.
That's great to hear.
I don't have a question so much as just a comment, and I'd like to commend you on how well you just spoke. The amount of filler words that a typical person speaks is astounding when you stop to think about it. And I don't know that I found a single filler word in your presentation. While you were reading for part of it, it was clear that you went off script at some points and you didn't have a single filler word. Great job. Keep it up. I have no doubt that you will do awesome in public speaking.
Thank you.
You all look snazzy.
Yes.
They haven't had dressed up for 2 years. I'm like, do we get our suits out? I mean, yes.
Absolutely. Always get out the suit. Always a good answer. Any other questions for Matthew? All right, Matthew, I just want to say great job as well. And thank you for sticking with it. Thank you for coming and, speaking with us. We love to have students here and we love to see you succeed in things you love to do. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Hello, my name is Caleb Costa. As Mrs. Williams said, I am the Eastern Region Vice President for that FBLA, and I am a third level member in her chapter. The ultimate reason I came before you guys is to thank each and every one of you as a board, as a whole, for all the support you have given FBLA and the business program. Being a member of the business management course has opened my eyes to a new world, a world that had I not entered the class, I wouldn't have known existed. A world that, from what I've learned, any sane person probably would have fled from. I've learned about a million different things, ranging from gross domestic product all the way to the deep abyss of what's known as accounting, something that, honest to God, terrifies me. Everything that we learn simply improves the outlook of our future and as people, and improves the likelihood of us going to college. Although I've had my own dose of the college workload, it's the last thing I want to do anymore. Anyway, it is through your support that Mrs. Williams' class is able to grow and our program is able to expand the way it has been. Moving on to my favorite part of the program, Future Business Leaders of America is a career and technical organization that has been around for 84 years and was built simply for the betterment of students. Being a member of the organization has opened doors to my future that I also had not known existed. Being a member of this organization teaches a multitude of leadership skills and the skills necessary for certain career fields. I have the honor of serving as the Eastern Region Vice President for the 2021-2022 term. This position is one that I've strived for since the beginning of, I guess, my engagement in FBLA since middle school. Middle school year was the last year that we got to attend state in person. I remember attending with the chapter then and sitting in the crowd, looking up on the stage, being in awe at the leaders that I saw before me. Then President Harrison Jones stood in front of us and kept a smile, loving what he does, and showed us that he loved the organization that he served. And he loved the organization that helped him become who he was. And that pushed me to do what he did. That pushed me to follow in his footsteps. I enjoy the organization I'm part of, as Harrison does. And I love the opportunities that it has brought to my life. I've experienced state 3 different times, and each time the events I've participated in are business law, impromptu speaking, and business ethics. All increased my passion to enter different fields of law. And now I have learned from each and every one of those events that seemed almost incomprehensible. Being a member of the Nevada state team has also allowed me to attend several different amazing leadership workshops that not every student gets to witness. They're workshops that are put on specifically for us. And like I said before, it simply improves leadership skills. There's things that, gosh, I don't think I would have learned from Mrs. Williams. And that's saying a lot because I've learned a lot from her. So to bring, well, what little I've said back together, the funds that you guys have directed to the business program have made it much better than it was when us juniors entered it as freshmen. And I cannot thank you enough for it. I hope that each and every one of you know that those funds are being put to good use by Mrs. Williams, an excellent advisor. She's an excellent person and is an outstanding role model to us students. I simply cannot stand here before you guys without making Mrs. Williams, because she's made a gigantic impact on our future. She has changed my views on a lot of things. So your guys' support also increases our moral support from her. So as I understand that my time is near up, I'll leave you with this. Support is a key to every single person's success. Backing the business program is promoting the future generation of business. And I know that I speak for every single student at not only my school, but other schools when I say thank you for the support that we receive from the board. And this concludes my presentation.
Great job, Caleb. Thank you. Any questions for Caleb?
I'm just curious if you're going to go to college for accounting?
Yeah. 101, 102.
No,
Lawyer.
Law.
Law accounting? Okay,
law or physics. Yep.
there you go.
There you go.
I'm sure you do well.
Caleb, stay with that leadership. Who knows, maybe you'll be on a board similar to this one day. I appreciate your willingness to go into leadership. Having had children who have gone through leadership positions, it's definitely trying. So continue to stay positive, continue to enjoy it and embrace it, and good luck becoming a lawyer and hopefully doing well with your legal studies.
Thank you, sir.
All right, other questions for Caleb? Mrs. Williams loves it when we ask them lots of questions, just so you know. Kathleen, they're saving them all up for you. Well, Caleb, thank you. And congratulations on serving where you wanted to serve when you were in middle school. That's fantastic to take on that leadership role and just dive in. And so if we give you a topic, do you want to come back and give us a speech in 5 minutes? I know you could. I'm just teasing you, Kayla, but impromptu speaking is a great skill. So that one will be one that you can use for a long time as well. We won't make you do that tonight, but Mrs. Williams will make you do it later.
Thank you.
All right.
I
Thank you,
appreciate
Caleb.
it.
All right. So hello. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Kathleen Edstrom, and I am a junior at Spring Creek High School. I just first wanted to take a quick second to thank you guys for allowing us to be here and be able to tell you our experiences about FBLA and how it has impacted our lives. So I have had the opportunity to serve as an FBLA member since my freshman year, but have lately, during my sophomore year and now my junior year, I have served as the event coordinator and the vice president. Throughout my years in FBLA, I have had the chance to compete at state and nationals. I competed at state twice and nationals my first time this year because I placed first in Introduction to Public Speaking. I also placed in top 10 in my other two events. So the opportunity that we had to go to state and nationals virtually was actually something that I will always have in my heart, because it was not only what I expected it to be, but it was way more, because we were able to create relationships and bonds with many other members across the country. Now, so I know that all of us have been impacted by COVID in some way or another, and COVID has obviously created an environment in our society of constant and surprising change. However, because of FBLA, I have been able to see and learn how to adapt through all of these changes and do so more efficiently and without so much pushback, I guess you could say. Because FBLA has, just because of how we have changed and learned to adapt through our events, and especially through state, how they put it together, even though it was definitely not supposed to be that way. It was just amazing to see the perseverance that this organization can and always shows to our members. FBLA has taught me how to exercise my strengths and learn to persevere and be able to do this and be able to present in front of you guys, because if little old freshman me, shy and quiet, would have came up here, she probably would have been having a panic attack right now. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little nervous, but not very much. So that's great. So now I want to talk a little bit about the business pathway, the program. As I walked in as a freshman, I thought that it would be an easy class and that I would learn a little bit about accounting, maybe some marketing, maybe some business management. But in fact, I learned about everything that goes into business, whether that be HR, which I learned was human resources, by the way, or anything that we have done to show community support and involvement. And I just am so thankful for everything that I've learned through the business program. But this organization would not be as amazing as it is without our amazing and inspirational advisor, Mrs. Williams. She has been a tremendous part in not only my growth, but the growth of many, maybe even hundreds of students at Spring Creek High School. She pushes us every day to succeed, and she is always that positive and voice that we need when we're nervous or when we need some sort of advice. She is always there for us. We are so lucky to have her as not only our advisor, but as our teacher. Her hard work inspires us all to work harder. I am so thankful for FBLA and everything that it has instilled in me and for the impact it has had on my life. Like I said before, if I would have walked in as a freshman, I probably would have ran away because it likes to take me out of my comfort zones. I want to especially thank you all for being supporters of FBLA as board members, because with your support in FBLA as an organization, you are supporting every single individual member that has walked through Mrs. Williams' doors and has grown from the age of 14 to 18. So I just want to say thank you so much for giving not only me the opportunity, but my fellow classmates and all of the FBLA members before me. So thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. Questions for Kathleen?
I have one. I'm curious, when you said freshman, you would come in and really have a hard time with public speaking. I'm curious how you personally were able to overcome that and get to where you're so articulate now.
I think it just comes with practice. As everybody says, is practice makes perfect, and I'm definitely not perfect yet, but I hope that I will continue over my last year as an FBLA member to reach that point in my life.
Practice in class.
Right.
We do impromptus in class, we do case studies, so they get to do, they start with peers first. And once you get comfortable with peers, you can pretty much talk in front of anybody, because they're more nervous in front of their peers than they are in front of adults.
You start out with smaller groups, 2, 3, 4 people,
Yeah.
and then kind of work your way up.
Yes.
That'll work, okay.
So, and then when we had to go to state virtual at the last minute, the kids had to be, I had to throw them on Zoom, and they had no clue what a Zoom was. And I thankfully had, because I was in a master's program and we had learned Zoom the year before, so I had been using it with the kids in class, recording myself if I was gone. And so I was able to teach them, and man, if that wasn't a learning curve, because they're like, what's a Zoom and what do I do? And what do you mean we're in 2 different places and we can record together? But her and her partner ended up doing that. And it tossed them into something very quickly that they had to learn or not compete.
Sink or swim, yeah.
Sink or swim.
And we definitely tried, and we definitely swam. And although I did have a couple cats in my background, a couple of videos.
There's a black cat going across the back. So yeah, we did that.
Yes, so it was a great experience.
Other questions?
Again, not a question, just more of a comment. Continue on this path. And for all 3 of you, you've all mentioned Mrs. Williams, and I hope that you've seen how easy it is. And I'm not saying that Mrs. Williams' job is easy, but how easy it is to make a difference in someone's life. The 3 of you have been impacted greatly by, I'm sure, everyone in your life that you've come to. But this evening specifically, you've mentioned Mrs. Williams, and I hope you carry that forward. Bring that forward, be an inspiration to someone else, be a friend to someone else, be a mentor, a leader to someone else. Continue with what you're doing and think fondly back when you're 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years from now. Think fondly back and let Mrs. Williams continue to be guidance for you.
Thank you so much.
Any other questions or comments?
It's hard to follow up after that.
Are we allowed to give you a round of applause?
Yes, we can cheer. Well, Kathleen, before you leave, you've got to tell us which events you competed in at nationals. You said you competed in 2 and placed in the top 10. So tell us about those.
Oh, I actually placed in the top 10 at state.
Okay.
So all
that's
3
great.
events.
That's great too.
Sorry, so I did business organization and then leadership.
Very good. And tell us what those entail. Give us a little quick
So-
synopsis.
So it's basically their tests. So you study and research different things on business organization and then leadership, and then you'll basically test on it. So it's basically like how we did, like say an SAT or anything like that. It's that kind of environment. And then public speaking, which I placed first in, is actually like you record yourself, you write your speech, and then you're graded off of a rubric.
Any other comments for everybody?
If you don't have a chance, if you don't know what FBLA is, it's the same like FFA, OSA, Skills USA. Those are the 4 professional organizations that are really well known across the United States. FBLA is the oldest business organization in the world. It's been around a long time. They've perfected it. They've really tried to be in the forefront when it comes to adding technology competitions in, like mobile app design, website design. So there's a whole plethora. It's not just about just speaking, but I will tell you that a lot of the components, they'll do a test, but they also have a speaking part. So they realize that it's important for these kids to learn how to get up and open up their mouth and talk. Carson's next. I had his other 2 kids. Carson's my last one, so. Of his one.
And Madam Chair, if I may,
Please.
I'd also like to commend Mrs. Williams and the FBLA program through the Northeastern Nevada Regional Development Authority and partners with a number of other agencies, including Nevada Gold Mines. Recently, there was a Rural Pitch Day, and the Rural Pitch Day allows entrepreneurs to go before a panel of experts, business leaders, et cetera, to be able to do a Shark Tank type pitch on what their business ideas are. And this year there was a youth category. And if I recall correctly, all 3 members were FBLA members, or at least 2 of the 3.
Eighth grader who won first
Okay.
place, by the way, from Spring Creek Middle School, but the other 2 were minors.
Great. So again, just, commendations on that and being able to inspire these young people to be entrepreneurs, be business leaders, et cetera. So well done.
Thank you for the email, because you forwarded it to me, and I had received it a month before and deleted it, because we get some emails a day, especially being a business high school teacher, they just bombard you with programs that they want you to be involved in, and software programs they want you to purchase, and so you just delete, but I saw your name, and I thought, oh, it's Matt, he must be talking about his son, so I pulled it up, and it had nothing to do with that, but that attributes also to you recognizing that there was maybe a need for it. What a great program. So if you know of anybody, it's November the 4th, 2022 for next year. You guys know anybody who's in high school or middle school? It's for any type of sales pitch, and I learned more about small startup organizations that are all over Nevada that are there for startup businesses for kids. And I thought, wow, I had no idea. I knew a few of them, but there was a lot more than what I knew. And what a great opportunity. And talk about trusting. I threw 2 of my kids in and said, you already started a business, you just need to do this. They're like, we have 2 days, Mrs. Williams. We said, you can do it. And they did it. So that tells me that those are a junior and a senior, that they've learned enough that they felt comfortable that they could do it. So kudos to them, right? Awesome.
Well, Mrs. Williams, Caleb, Matthew, and Kathleen, thank you for coming tonight. Thank you for sharing your talents with us. We look forward to seeing you as community leaders wherever you end up. And Mrs. Williams, thank you for always growing your program and sharing it with us.
Yes, thank you for joining us. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Another round of applause.
Yes. All right, we will move on to item 2.1, receipt, review, and possible approval of revisions to policy JBA. This is a first reading.
Okay, so the new board members know that when we bring policies to the board, we do 2 readings. So the first reading is either time, the board can choose to ask questions, and we can explain what changes and why we've made these changes. And then if the board chooses to, they can choose to pass that and accept that at that point in time, or we can bring it back to the second agenda, okay, with maybe better explanations or more background as to why we're making these changes. So this is a first reading. The board can choose to approve this tonight, or we'll bring it back on the next agenda if they choose. And this particular change came from the legislative session this past year. And what they've done is they've changed the mandatory age for the starting of kindergarten and first grade from the end of September's age at September 30th, okay? And it's now been changed to the first day of school for the respective school district they're going to attend school in. So this changes an existing policy, okay? And then the second part of that is we're going to have sort of a transition as we work into this policy so we don't adversely affect any students, okay? And so that's about the extent of my knowledge of that. Candace is here, okay? Tornahue, she's our Director of Elementary Ed. And if the board has any specific questions, you can ask Candace about this change.
Good evening. Does anybody have any questions about that?
So this just affects new kids coming in to the district, kids that are already.
Right, kids that are already enrolled and going through our school programs will be grandfathered in, and they'll progress with their cohorts if they're developmentally ready. And then 2, so if we have like a 5-year-old, parents can elect to either put them in kindergarten or to hold them back. And this is on or at the first day of school. And then let's just say we have a 6-year-old that the parents want to enroll. Now, if that student has been enrolled in kindergarten, then we will automatically enroll them in first grade. But if that student hasn't been enrolled in kindergarten by the time they're 6, then they will go back to kindergarten. And then we also have, if a student is 7 years old and hasn't been in the school system yet, then what we'll do is we'll give them a developmental test like the KTEA3 and give them some grade level assessments to determine what grade level best fits their needs. But the choices we are given with that is kindergarten or first grade. And if a student is enrolled in a school outside the state and then comes into Nevada, we will go ahead and grant them enrollment in the grade level they need to be in order to stay current with their enrollment in their other state.
Any other questions from the board?
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, please.
Mr. Attorney, who the most recent or the last hypothetical that you had brought up coming in from another state, is that going to be moving forward if the legislature doesn't change this again, or is this only the 2-year window that we're working on currently with the 21-22, 22-23 school year?
That's a very good question, Mr. McCarty, and I'm going to have to research that and get back to you at the next school board
Okay.
meeting.
Then, and no worries there. I
Okay.
appreciate you talking about the developmental tests. So thank you, because that answered one of my questions. Next question is within the policy itself and within the Senate Bill 102, which created this discussion, there was a waiver form for folks that want to waive for, I believe it was six-year-old. Has that form been created? Is that something?
It has
that-
not, but I will work with the site administrators to get that in place for the beginning of next year.
Okay. And the last thing I have is more of a I guess a housekeeping a question, something procedurally. This section 6 of the policy as proposed would be null and void after the 2022-2023 school year. Is this something that we would automatically schedule for review after that period? Do we need to pass a motion that says remove that language when it's appropriate? Or do we just wait and see what the legislature does in another year? What's the best way to move forward on that?
Well, what's your opinion as far as, you'd be the one who is looking at how to implement this? Obviously, we would have the policy in place, but is that something that you feel like would be an issue for you as you go forward? I appreciate Matt, talking about, do we just, revisit this once we know what the legislature is going to do? As far as your portion of facilitating this,
Right.
give us your thoughts, please.
That would be my recommendation, is to wait for the Senate bills to change, because sometimes it's nice to go back in policy and go, oh yeah, that's why we did it this way, or this is why it was done that way. So if we remove that, sometimes we just don't know because we're just doing it.
Okay.
I had a question. I just
Yeah,
wanted to
please.
clarify that, and I went back and looked at the NRS associated, the NRS 392.040. And basically what we're doing here is just putting into policy what the legislature has already decided.
Right,
And just sticking to that. It's not anything that we're really
right.
changing other than that. It's sticking directly to that.
All we did was take September 30th out of the old policy and put the beginning of school
Right.
at the,
To
in its
meet with the
place.
updated change from the
Yeah.
legislature. Got it.
All right. Well, thank you. Your approval tonight will give us the time needed to inform all stakeholders before the start of next year. So hopefully there will be 0 surprises. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, any discussion from the board?
I'm sure as far as discussion goes, I feel that the legislature, I wish I knew more why the legislature passed this. I feel that it's not appropriate for the legislature to make a hard and fast rule in this way. If someone is 4 years, 364 days old, and they miss it by 1 day, but they're developmentally ready, both from a social aspect, from an educational aspect, I think it's silly to hold them back. But I agree with Jeff that there's not much that we have on this. It's past law. It is what it is. I don't see that we can get away from it. But I think as a discussion point, when we have that option to visit with our legislators, this is a minor thing that there's, I'm sure, much bigger issues, but this is something that I was just disappointed in and frustrated that there's not the flexibility. I think local control, parental control is a better aspect than having somebody in Carson City make this ruling. But with that said, again, I agree with Jeff. I don't think there's much that we can do here. And if there's no further discussion, I'm prepared to make a motion.
Go ahead.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the revisions to policy JBA for the first reading.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, we'll give that second to Jeff. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All right, all in favor of approval, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Chair votes aye, and this policy is approved. And thank you, Ms. Turner, for the information and for keeping us current. Item 3.1 is our consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Chair votes aye, and the consent agenda is approved. Item 4.1 is a report from our NASB director, Mr. Wines.
All right, we, NASB, we had a meeting last week, a Zoom meeting, and all of you, give you a little background. The National School Board Association is an organization that the Nevada Association of School Boards belongs to. And an interim executive director with the National School Board Association wrote a letter to President Biden, and the president of the NSBA signed it. Both of them signed it. They didn't run it past anybody, any of the other board members, any of the states. And they're under a lot of fire for that right now. And this meeting we had last week was just kind of to lay it all out, what happened. And then Thursday, we're having another meeting. There's states that are withdrawing their membership to the National School Board Association. There's states that aren't going to renew their membership. And Nevada's dues are paid up until next August. And that's been talked about staying that long. They're seeing everybody's surprised those two are still on payroll, but they are. And but it's Thursday, we'll know more about it. But that's kind of where it stands. Everybody was pretty upset with that letter. And they did issue an apology, but it was kind of a half-hearted attempt at an apology. So that's what I have to report on. I'll have more day after tomorrow.
And I think it's important just because our acronyms are so close that we recognize the difference between NASB, which is the Nevada Association of School Boards, where we could receive our training, and the National School Boards Association, which is NSBA. So all the educational acronyms, we have to be careful we are looking at the right ones. So we receive our training from NASB, and we will also talk about the conference that's happening this week as well, Ira.
Yep, there's the board training Thursday, starts at 9:30. And then the conference is the next 2 days, the 12th and the 13th. And the training is for all board members, especially new board members. It should be good. It's on board governance. And the conference is always good. They've always got good speakers there to it's educational to go to it, to what board members do, it's a good conference to go to.
Excited for the opportunity.
All right, any questions for Ira? All right. Well, Ira, thank you for always keeping us up on that. Item 4.2 is items from board members. This is a non-action item. I'll read that. Anyone have anything like to share, ask about? I'm just going to start by saying we are grateful to have more people at the table. So thank you. That is my item for the night, is I am just grateful to have more people at the table. More ideas, more input. It's fantastic. And thank you for being willing to dive in at such a challenging time. We appreciate it a lot. Anyone else have anything?
I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to serve. And thank you to the people in Central, Cassie, Mr. Zander, Leslie, and Mac for getting me started and the paperwork and all of that. So appreciate it.
Yeah, I kind of want to echo the same sentiment. Is thank you. Thank both the two of you for believing in me and giving me that appointment. For a lot of you that don't know, I don't know anybody here. really. I just felt called to serve and put in an application and things worked out where I'm here. But in the short time that I've gotten to meet everybody and get to know what everybody's about, I feel really, really positive for, our prospects going forward and be able to get together and do the best for the reason that we're all here is for these kids and to make sure that they get what they're supposed to get. So really excited to serve with you guys in this conference coming up. I mean, the timelines of everything worked out, but I've also just being in this meeting too, it feels different than past meetings that I've been in the last few months. And so I'm just really thankful for this opportunity. So.
All right, I do have one item that it's not an item of business necessarily, but just to see if someone would like to volunteer. I have been serving on the Title I Committee of Practitioners for several years at this point, and they really encourage us to have a local representative. So if anyone would like to take the opportunity to serve on that committee, please let me know, and I will submit your name to our membership clerk. They meet 4 times. It's all virtual meetings. You can attend in person if you want. I always attend virtually. 4 times a year. Sorry. 4 times a year. And sometimes that changes. COVID has done lots of changing with lots of things, even though we always met virtually. So if anyone would be interested in that, please let me know and I will submit your name. All right, that's all I've got unless anybody else has something. We'll move on to item 5.1, our superintendent's report.
Okay, well, I'd like to sentiment some of Jeff's comments too, because I have really appreciated the opportunity to sit down with the new board members and talk about the school district and hear the different perspectives, okay? Because that's what this is about, okay? And it's been refreshing. I look forward to it. It's a refreshing change what we're seeing in tonight's meeting as compared to what we've sort of seen, since I've started here in September. So it's been a refreshing change. And we look forward to working with all of you and we appreciate all your dedication to our kids. I think you stepped in at the right time. The presentation by Tiffany Williams is, one of the better presentations we see year in, year out that comes in front of the Board of Trustees. And so you picked a great night to come to work for us. So we appreciate that. So in the superintendent's report, I've attached 3 or 4 documents in there. One of the documents is the construction update, which is something we update, the board on at every meeting. Okay. And what this reflects is it shows the Elko High School Performing Arts Building, $16,534,000 contract, and we're anticipating that being completed on November 12th. Okay. They've still had some issues with supply chain and getting some of those items to Elko to finish that building, but I think they're going to be using that pretty soon. I sort of stepped ahead of myself here first. First thing I want to do is I want to introduce all of our central office staff to the new board members. I don't know if you're familiar with all the central office staff. Okay. So starting on the end down there, that's Candace Dornahue, and she's our Director of Elementary Education. Okay. Sitting next to her is Ray Smith, and he's our Director of Special Services. Sitting next to Ray is Casey Kelly, and he's in charge of all our facilities. Okay. Sitting next to Casey is Keith Walls. Okay. And he's our Director of Secondary Ed. Okay. Next to Keith is Clayton Anderson, that he goes by CJ. Okay. And he's our Director of School Improvement. Okay. And sitting next to CJ is Julie Davis, and she is our CFO, Director of Finance. So these are the people that make the whole place work, okay? And in addition to the support staff we have, and they're helping them out. But that being said, I wanted to recognize them. So all of you know, when you walk down the hallway here, if you bump into one, you know who you're talking to there, okay? Anyways, so for the most part, I can take you through all these projects if you'd like me to, or you can review that on your own. If you have questions, you can reach out to me, okay? In the meantime, Casey comes to all the meetings and he can answer specific questions, in regards to each one of these projects and the status of these projects. On the back part of that report, okay, it sort of shows projects in development. So these are projects that are on the long-term facility plans that we have, okay, that the board has identified as a need at one point or another. Actually, on this particular list right here, I think the only projects they have in place that are actually in development or in design are the Spring Creek High School ag classrooms. They're going to expand the ag classrooms at Spring Creek High School, hopefully, okay? And that's to put a meets program in there, and I think a diesel technology program in at Spring Creek High School. And the second thing is they have plans in the works right now for Northside Gymnasium classroom unit that would go up there where the modulars are sitting on the hill above Northside Elementary, okay? And so those are the only 2 projects. I talked to Casey about that today. And if you have any specific questions, Casey can answer those at this time.
Can we have Casey come and talk about the gym and the classroom? I don't know if these guys have all heard about that, but I think it's a great way to, look at getting rid of trailers and expanding classrooms. And if Casey, if you can talk about that a little bit, I think that'd be helpful.
Absolutely. My name is Casey Kelly. What we're talking about is up at Mountain View, there's 10 modular trailers up there. And Elko always has a shortage. Actually, all of our communities have a shortage of gymnasiums.
North side.
So what we're looking at, or north side, excuse me. We're looking at putting the south side too. But we're pulling together a gymnasium that has classrooms on the one side. So those will replace the modular units plus give north side a gymnasium. Their current gym is multi-purpose room essentially, and it's where they eat lunch. So they really do not have a gymnasium for gym class and that class. But what we're hoping to do is take this model and plug it in at different schools and locations that this may work, save some architectural fees and hope get rid of trailers.
Any questions for Casey?
Madam Chair, if I may,
Yeah.
thank you, Casey. I appreciate that. I'm assuming that the design and everything else is current and ready to move forward to a construction phase. Is that
We're
accurate?
still, the gymnasium, we're about 50% designed, and the CTE building at Spring Creek High School, we're at about 25%.
Okay.
We're hoping to be ready to go by spring.
And would these be the existing pay-as-you-go funds then?
That's a tricky question. Jeff and I were discussing that. I'm anticipating a rough order of magnitude at the end of our current projects. By next spring, we'll have a balance of about $16 million. And if the bond passes, I'm going to recommend we move forward. If the bond does not pass, I'm going to recommend we table these for a little bit. So I have money to replace boilers, heating and cooling units until we get some other mechanism in place to pay for the capital projects.
So this is gonna be, we'll know, in the next month and a half as far as where we're gonna be at. And no doubt if the, existing funding stops for capital projects, okay, the board's gonna have to make some decisions whether, if it does fail, whether we're gonna go back to the voters, okay, to see if we can get a reduced rate of some sort to get some capital construction funds, okay? And in conjunction with that, because the timing of that's probably gonna be delayed implementation, then we're also gonna have to make some decisions in regards to those projects we have in the long-term facilities list that are the result of the comprehensive facility surveys that are more HVAC and building related concerns, okay? Versus, the enhancement of existing structures or new structures in the district. So that's sort of where we're at, in this mix right now. We're sort of in limbo, okay? But the projects that have been identified at this point in time that we would like to, have the opportunity to put in place if the bond does pass, okay? No doubt there could be some other projects attached to these two projects, okay? Are the North Side Gymnasium project up there and the Spring Creek vocational programming. No doubt the other part of that's going to be this, as we get a new board in place now, okay? I think it's important as we work through the spring, okay? Because that's when we do our long-term facility planning in the spring. The board's going to get the opportunity to sort of restart that program, restack that deck in regards to what our priorities are. And if the bond does pass, also restack that deck in regards to some bigger projects, whether that be, new elementaries or new middle school, in the Elko area. So, we're sort of in
March
limbo.
or so.
What's that?
Around March or so.
Yeah, I think that would start, that budget process, the tentative budget's due April 15th. Okay, so normally you're tiptoeing into budget late February. You know what I mean? And the whole facilities thing, we work on the facilities thing for pretty much 4 to 5 months every spring. You know what I mean? In regards to identifying projects, prioritizing those projects, and making determinations on scope and scale of those particular projects, and then bringing those forward and implementing them into a 5-year capital improvement plan, which the board will finalize when the final budget is determined, okay, which is normally the second or third week in May, I believe.
So is this, and I apologize for not doing homework specific to this, but are the projects that are in development here, everything that's on the current 5-year capital improvement plan?
No, there's well, Casey can answer that better than I can.
Yeah, my clerk of the work made that list up from previous data, so it needs to be updated. We've had some workshops over the last few months or several months that we've got identified some additional projects.
Okay.
So that whole last page probably needs to be updated.
Okay. And is there, obviously, construction costs change, architecture fees we can't control. I know there's a whole plethora of things that we don't have control over, but do you have an estimate as to the value of the roughly dozen and a half projects in development here?
Not off the top of my head, I'll have to go back and look at our spreadsheets.
Okay, no, that's fine. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yep.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, any other questions for Casey? All right,
Okay.
thank you, Casey
Thank you,
and
Casey.
Jeff.
Okay, so I've also attached an enrollment report. You can see the enrollment as of today is 9,982 students. So we're up 345 students from the same time last year. Okay, we're still down a little bit. Okay, I'm actually gonna, and I know that Julie's been working with Josh, okay, to make some determinations in here. I know there's been some changes in the way they calculate adult education this year as compared to the previous year, and you can see there's a significant change in that area. Also, early childhood, there's a significant change there. So we're going to follow up with Josh on that to see exactly why, what makes those variances up there. But for the most part, we're up across the district in regards to enrollment.
I can explain it for the child.
Okay, go ahead, Ray.
So the change in early childhood enrollment is not really a change. It's just a change in the way we enrolled those kids in Infinite Campus, our software program. Their primary enrollment prior to this was in an early childhood class, which is what is being pulled there. But it was messing up reports that we had to print. So we changed the way they were enrolled, and they're now enrolled at the school that houses that program. So for example, Liberty Peak, there's a pre-K program there. Those numbers are included, the pre-K numbers are included in the Liberty Peak number. So there's actually really a minimal change in the enrollment in early childhood. It's just how it's being shown on that report.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you, Ray.
Jeff, Jeff Zander,
Yes.
Is there a final count date? Is there,
It used to be the, it was normally the third week in September, there was a final count date, and the enrollment was based upon that for the entire year. Okay, but they've changed that probably 5 years ago now, and they go on what they call an average daily enrollment. So they do monthly enrollment counts based on average daily enrollment. Okay, and then that's averaged out over the course of the year. Okay, and that's how we get funded. So most school districts benefited from a count day in the fall, in the third week of September, because you normally have higher enrollment early in the fiscal year or the school year. Okay, and then as the year goes on, you'll have kids transfer and drop out and all those types of things. Okay, so they changed that with ADA. The other part of that is they changed the way that graduation rates are determined. Okay, and graduation rates at that same time were changed from the standpoint that when a kid enrolls in your school as a freshman, okay, if that student drops out or transfers to another school, okay, if you don't do the appropriate transfer paperwork to show that that student transferred out, okay, it counts as a dropout for that particular school. So now they have much more comprehensive auditing, okay, of high school kids in regards to their matriculation through schools and by state, okay, to do that. So lots of times when you look at some of our graduation rates, they're actually not as low as they currently appear, because we have kids that sort of disappear. And if you can't track that kid to another school or another state, then it shows up as a dropout. Okay, so they made pretty significant changes about 5 years ago with that, and now we do an average daily.
thank you. And over the past 5 years of statistics or data gathering, have you seen any months after September in which enrollment went up?
For Elko County School District, I don't believe so. I don't think we've had
Okay.
jumps in enrollment in a number of years. Back in the late 90s, when we were really growing, we would see significant jumps mid-year. Okay. And we didn't benefit from that because we had a single count day. Okay. But since the average daily enrollment's gone in place, or average daily attendance, average daily enrollment has gone in place, for the most part, the only schools that actually benefit from that might be, areas of high growth. Clark County probably see some increases in that, but for the most part, Elko stays relatively the same or tends to drop off late in the fiscal year.
So then as a board, it may be prudent for us to not look at enrollment today, but look at enrollment perhaps last May, because that would be the low point of the curve, and that's kind of where we want to be roughly.
Well, I think that as you go through the budget process, Okay, Julie will be, making determinations in regards to forecasting enrollment in the development of the budget, okay? And so that's sort of the time when you can sort of evaluate the estimate she's making or the forecast she's making. I mean, historically, you under budget revenues, okay, and over budget expenditures, you know what I mean? Just so you have leeway on the appropriation side and understated revenues a little bit. So you're gonna have protections coming from additional revenue start showing up. And no doubt Julie's gonna implement something like that. And when she brings the augmented budget back to the board in December, you guys can have some discussions in regards to what assumptions she's making in formulating that budget.
Thank you.
Okay, and then lastly, I did attach some documents on the administrative content in the superintendent's report, okay? And what that sort of reflects is we responded to the question and answer article that was in the Free Press on Wednesday, okay, of last week. And that's the articles and the attachments we had attached to that article that were submitted to the Elko Daily Free Press today. So I share that with the board. And that's all I have. Other than the news I shared with you this last weekend, that the state epidemiologist reached out to us Friday night and told us that Mountain View and Grammar School number 2 were no longer in outbreak status. And I received an update earlier in the week, and hopefully we're going to see 4 more schools at the end of this week that'll be taken out of outbreak status. Hopefully the number of cases stay low, and so that'll happen. So slowly but surely, okay, we're getting back to where kids are going to school without masks. That's all I have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Zander. Any questions for our superintendent? All right, we will move on to item 6.1, approval of accounts payable.
Move to approve the accounts payable.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, thank you, Susan. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion or questions?
Madam Chair, I do.
Yes, please.
And I'm going to apologize as I go through this board. You're going to probably hear this pretty often during meetings, so I don't mean to drag things out. Just want to make sure I'm understanding things properly. Thank you, Julie. I've noticed in here that the very first line says special election supplies, and then throughout there are about, I think, 3 or 4 total costs that are related to the special election. Since we've been told that we can't use district funds to advocate for, are these funds or these expenditures related to putting on the cost of the election, because that's something we have to pay for?
Yeah, so none of these expenses are advocating for anything. We're paying the county's invoices for buying the mailing envelopes to mail the ballots, the paper the ballots are printed on, polling station supplies, the sample ballots, all of that stuff. We pay for the county.
I did not add it up, and I apologize. Do you have a rough guesstimate of what the cost of this is?
I think last week we paid about 35,000, but I'm tracking it in a separate account, so I can get you a specific number.
Okay, thank you. And the last thing that I have, and I'm trying to figure out how to, there we go. I have a question on an expenditure here, and it's with somebody that's in the room. So I mean, no disrespect to Mr. Walls specifically, but there's an $18,994.95 reimbursement back to Mr. Walls. That
No.
seems like a really big reimbursement.
That's not a reimbursement. If you see in the 3rd column, it's Wells Fargo Bank. So the name in the 4th column is the name on the credit card.
Okay.
The payment to Wells Fargo for the credit
For
card.
the card that he
payments.
has.
Stuff like travel, hotels, conferences, or if a vendor doesn't take purchase orders, then we put that on a credit card as well.
Okay, great. Thank you. And I should have spent some time in your office to figure out how this is read, but I just saw that. And I was like, whoa,
No, it's okay.
that's substantial. Okay, great.
Always,
you.
always good to ask questions. That's good.
And so I was given a heads up on that earlier, so I looked into that, okay, and what that was is Cassie, our grant writer's MasterCard was compromised, okay? So she had to borrow Keith's card to make some reservations for 13 teachers that are going to the National Association of Gifted Children Conference in Denver. And so that's what those expenses were related
Great,
to.
thank you. And that's this week, correct? They're in Denver, I think the same time we're in Tahoe.
Oh, okay.
Okay, great. Okay. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
That's all this week.
Thank you. Thank you. No, that's good. That's good. We want to understand what we're voting on. That's important. All right. Any other questions? All right. I will be disclosing that I have a family member who has an employer who is listed on the accounts payable. And I can now abstain since there's enough people here that I don't need to vote if I, unless I have to. So I will also be abstaining. All right. We have a motion on the floor. There is no more discussion or questions. We will move forward with that. All in favor of approval of the accounts payable, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? All right, and the chair is abstaining, but the accounts payable are approved. Item 7.1 is a final opportunity for input from the public. Is there anyone who wishes to make a comment? Please.
Thank you. Just a quick question, more for Mr. Harbour-Wines. This NASB training and conference, is that open to the public?
We had to register and we have to pay to go to it.
Yeah, I'm still,
Yeah, I'll have to look into that.
okay.
You know, yeah.
I'm not sure. I would imagine that people could walk in there if they wanted to, but I'm not certain.
Yeah.
Okay. You may still have my email. Could you get back to me on that?
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, is there anyone else who wishes to make a comment? Please come forward. Oh, and I apologize. Please state your name.
Before the next person shows up, this is Joel Locke. I'm going to be presenting at the NASB conference. I don't believe it's open to the public.
Thank you.
That was Danielle Stevenson. I'm Julie Stevenson. And last meeting, we asked some questions. We specifically requested that things be put on the agenda. The parents had some questions for themselves and for their children, and they were repeatedly asked to be put on the agenda. I'm confused as to why, when the parents are concerned or the children are concerned, it's not important enough to get on the agenda. Why is it that when we ask a question, we get stony stares and no response? Which we're getting right now. Stony stares and no response.
So Mrs. Stephenson, in regards to the assurances that you discussed, in regards to the federal money that the district accepted, okay? We
Yes.
updated the assurances page on our website, okay, for those assurances that were signed upon approval of those funds this past throughout the summer, okay? And so you can read through those assurances.
What we wanted to know was what was promised. What we wanted to know is what money you've gotten. What we wanted to know is where the funds went. What we're curious about is we've got a lot of people patting themselves on the back for big, beautiful, marvelous buildings. But we have parents who are being asked to supply ridiculous things to their children's classrooms. We had issues with no heat. We had issues with no water. We're in the middle of a pandemic and children couldn't wash their hands. There was no soap. There was no tissues. We've got brand new copier machines that the teachers can't use unless they go to the store and pay $30 and $40 for the toner. Why do we have $16 million brand new buildings when the teachers can't use the copying machine? When the children have no water or soap to wash their hands? This is what I'm asking. All these capital expenditures are not covering what the schools need, what the teachers need, what the children's need. We can have marvelous buildings, but that's not making the schools work. That's not giving the children an education, and that's not allowing the teachers to even keep their paychecks. And this is what we're trying to figure out. Why doesn't anybody seem to care?
So can we set up an appointment? You can come into my office and we can meet about that, discuss these issues.
Actually, I'm speaking for the teachers because the teachers are terrified to speak for themselves because they're going to lose their jobs. I'm not a teacher anymore. I was.
Thank you. All right, is there anyone else who wishes to make a public comment? Please. The mic is there. Tammy, go ahead.
I don't like being on this side, you know that. Tammy Dickinson, most of you know me. Speaking really quick, capital improvement money is for capital improvements, not for general fund concerns. And part of why I know that is because, as Chris Johnson mentioned, I am helping with the passing the bond, this guy right here. And I just wanted to remind everybody that we are relying heavily on social media to get the word out. So if people have questions, feel free to refer them to our Facebook page. It's Citizens for Elko County Schools. And Chris was nice and pointed out that I'm working on the committee, but Tiffany Eden is managing most of our social media at this point. And I just want to take this time to thank her for all her hard work. We're trying the best we can. We hope we can secure this vote for you. And if you guys have any questions or concerns, please get a hold of me. So thanks.
Thank you, Tammy.
Tammy, I apologize. Was that Citizens for Elko County Schools? Thank you.
All right, anyone else?
Can I make one comment?
All right, well, your time is actually up. So, but maybe afterward, if you'd like to speak with Tammy, if you've got a question for her.
No, it's just a general statement about capital expenditures being for capital expenditures. The COVID-19 money wasn't specified for capital expenditures.
Thank you. All right, anyone else? We do have a comment that if anyone on the board would like to volunteer to read it, I would be glad to hand it over. All right. Susan's gonna time.
Maybe I shouldn't read it. I don't read very fast. Hello, my name is Sage. I'm from Wells High School. I have experienced school in all manners, unmasked, masked, hybrid, and completely virtual. I am involved in volleyball, wrestling, softball, student council, student council vice president, FFA, and work at the Wells Family Resource Center. As a senior, I believe the kids at Wells High School and other students' voices should be heard and listened to, because we are the ones that have missed out on so much. It is our education that is being affected, and we should have a say in how we would like to learn. I feel that a variety of adults and parents are not listening. I appreciate all the hard decisions and opinions you must take in, but if you would listen to us, we could help take one of the many decisions off your plate by listening to us wanting to be in school. With being involved in multiple activities, I hear from many individuals and classmates. I would say that we agree on one fact. No matter how much we hate masks, we hate virtual learning more than anything. With no in-person teaching or hands-on learning, it is difficult to learn for many. Being virtual has only taught us how to cheat and how to Google anything you need to pass the school year without learning. Being virtual affects our problem solving, study skills, overall learning, and physical wellness. Majority of students at Wells High School, as many schools, rely on sports organizations and clubs to make school worth doing. Without sports, students have no motivation to work on their schoolwork, to pass to the next level, or even graduate. Sports tend to push students to succeed in class and learn so that they have the opportunity to play ball. Not only do sports push us, but organizations and clubs also tend to push students to be successful in class so they can participate and travel with their group. Many NFL, NBA, MLB, Major League Baseball, rodeos, and colleges can all play and have fans at full capacity. So why can't we attend if they can attend these functions? Yes, we all hate masks, but we're willing to wear masks if it means we get a normal school year with sports organizations, clubs, pep assemblies, spirit days, peer interaction, and hands-on learning. Many students at Wells High School say that virtual videos or meetings with teachers don't teach us. They make us lost and confused even after we ask questions. But virtual makes many students fall behind without having a teacher to explain concepts further with no one-on-one instruction. Being in person allows students to get the correct and accurate information that may help the students get what they need from teachers with one-on-one hand learning. Virtual learning gives kids no motivation to succeed. Without motivation, we will have more students fall behind and be held back. So please listen to your children and let them make their own decisions of how they would like their education to be. Let the students and teachers be actively learning in a classroom and physically active in PE classes. A quantity of things.
Time. Thanks, Ira, for reading that. We appreciate seeing a comment from a student. Anyone else wish to make a comment? All right. The next item on the agenda is a motion to move into closed session for NRS 288.220 for the purpose of meeting with district negotiation management representatives.
So moved.
All right.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Chair votes aye, and we will move into closed session. We appreciate you coming tonight and appreciate your input.
Thank you all.
Okay. All right.